You're listening to Deliberate Living, a podcast that inspires, empowers, and encourages listeners to live life more authentically. My name is Holly Priestley, and I'm a full-time nomad who has been living in my 1997 Ford van for more than a year. I travel the United States with my dog, learning how to live with more authenticity. I explore different ways people choose to ditch the prescribed life we've all been sold and live on their terms, finding freedom and happiness however they choose. Hello, everybody. Holly Priestley here, the host of the Deliberate Living podcast. And today's episode is a special one because it is with one of my best friends, Miss Emily Martin of Positively Pets Pet Training. And Emily and I have known each other for 3 or 4 years now, longer?
We met in either 2015 or 2016, so somewhere in that range.
Yeah, somewhere in that range. We actually met at a knitting group that I started at a brewery in Denver, because that's the best way to make new friends when you land somewhere new, is to start crafting groups at breweries, because if you like both of those things, we can probably be friends. Emily came to one of those, and we've been friends ever since. So I wanted to have her on the podcast today because she has had a really interesting career, just in general, I think. And a year and some change ago, just over a year ago, she left her full-time career job to pursue running her own business. And so I think that is a really interesting lifestyle choice to make. And also, I know there's a lot of people out there who have considered doing the same things. So I wanted to have her on here to talk a little bit about her story and what that looked like and how you might be able to make those same shifts. So, hello, Emily.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Why don't you give the audience a little bit of your background and a little bit about you and where you came from?
Yeah, I'll try to do the Cliff Notes version because it's kind of a long one. I was one of those weird kids who was like obsessed with animals, right? That, go to national parks and bring home posters of bobcats and post them all over my room. But I was born and raised in California and somehow just developed this love for animals and knew I wanted to work with the animals, but not for sure what. Oddly enough, my family was not an animal family. Like, we didn't have a ton of pets. It wasn't, we didn't have like pigs and hamsters and dogs and cats at all. My mom allowed me to get a bunny rabbit when I was about 7, and it was like life-changing. Grease lightning. So, I tried to train these bunnies and treat them like my
named Grease Lightning.
Yep, Grease Lightning. She looked like she went under a car and got like grease spilled all over her.
I love it.
So I had a couple bunnies and would try to train them. And again, was just like the total animal dork. But back then I was like, oh, you have to be a veterinarian to work with animals. So that was kind of like always in my head. And then in high school, going into high school, I learned about an amazing college called Moorpark College. It's in California, and it happened to be about 45 minutes an hour from my hometown. And basically, it's a specialty animal training school where it's like basically nursing school, but for zookeepers. So it's 2 years, 24/7. Like, you're there 7 days a week, all the time.
Whoa.
And it's all about animal training, zookeeping, everything you want to know, education. So I kind of was like, all right, that's what I want to do. And kept on that goal and that dream and got in right after high school, which is very challenging to do. It's a 50-person program. Yeah. So I was kind of stoked. I finally actually got a dog my senior year in high school and was like working with horses and knew that was a path. So I went to Moorpark, graduated there early 2000s, and launched into my career. And I have all kinds of weird, fun stories, but I used to work for a lot of small nonprofits. When I say small nonprofits, I always say small in staff, big in animals. Okay. So we would do educational outreach, but we'd have like 200 animals, but there was like 4 staff members.
Dang.
Yeah, so I pretty much...
Good animal-human ratio.
Yeah. So animals were life, like definitely. Like, you usually lived on the facility. Like, it was my life, and I loved it. And I got amazing experiences. I've raised so many different species. And we'd travel and do education programs, and we'd set up exhibits at fairs, and we'd travel and do media with Jack Hanna. I've been on Letterman, Leno, all of those cool things.
Sweet.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Good times. And then I also worked for some of the big name zoos out there, one in California, San Diego, and then here in Denver. So I've also worked for like the big corporates. So I always say that, you know, I'm kind of like found the little niches, the little places, and then the giant San Diego, and then Denver was the like right in the middle kind of meeting spot as far as size goes. What else? I have taken some breaks in my career. So I've been working with exotic animals for about 18 years. And I did take a few breaks in those years with dogs and snowboarding. So one of my other passions is snowboarding. So a few years in, I was like, you know what? I'm going to flee and like escape to the mountains for a little bit. Like I'm working 60-hour work weeks. I'm young. Like, what am I doing? And so I did that, and I was a lifty for a little bit in California, and then I learned about sled dogs, and I saw them out on the hill running sled dogs, and I was like, I can do that. So I did. I went and approached the dude, and thought I might get murdered that day. It was a really sketchy situation. I don't know what I'm getting into. And I was the only girl musher for like 3 years. And it was amazing. It was super hard work, running dogs, taking people out on sled rides throughout the Eastern Sierras. It was gorgeous and magical. And my dog that I have now actually came from that kennel. She's 11. So she has a great memory of all that and love her to pieces. So yeah, I've kind of taken the breaks. And then I also started a dog training company in 2010 as a side business. So that's kind of all the animal world in a nutshell of where I've gone from exotics to dogs.
Yeah. And so what made you want to pursue your dog training full time after having that steady career in smaller organizations, bigger organizations, stuff in the middle, and then you're just like, you know what, I want to do my own thing?
Yeah.
What kind of prompted that, and what held you back at the beginning from actually pursuing it?
Yeah. Well, I think I've always, obviously I've bounced around a little bit in jobs in the last 20 years. I think I, you know, with the van life and that I like to move around, and now I'm more stable. But in my 20s, it was like ping pong all over the place. And one of my goals in 2009, I moved to Portland. I left the tiny snow town of Mammoth, and moved to Portland. And I wanted to start my own educational outreach facility. So having rescued wildlife and going into schools and teaching them about like local community and local wildlife and how to, you know, be respectful to our planet and kind of all that. So that was a big goal of mine. Mm-hmm. And when I moved out there, I had a business partner in the making, and we were kind of 4 years into like building this business and ready to launch it. And my business was going to be Positively Wild. Uh-huh. And to support Positively Wild was going to be Positively Pets. So that's kind of where I came up with the dog training. I was like, well, we need to support this like hard business, but dog training, you know, is always around, and people always have dogs. So that was a big goal of mine. And it ended up not going through. My business partner decided she wasn't ready for that, which was fine. So I didn't launch that, and I launched Positively Pet. So I've always had this dream of being a business owner for over 10 years and wanting to do my own thing. And I think what stopped me in the past is just like, it's hard. It's right. It's hard to do your own thing and be responsible for your own paychecks and your own living. And it's easier just to show up to work every day and do a great job and get a paycheck and have that like job security. Yeah. And so that's kind of, I ran my business for a few years, but I wasn't happy in Portland. So then I moved and went back to the zoo world and got right back into the zoo world and just did the norm because that's what you're supposed to do. So I would say part of leaving and like the leap that I took was hard because it had been my career for so long, and leaving those animals was really, really hard. Leaving those zoo animals, you know, again, they're like your kids and you spend so much time with them and everything. So that was one of the hard parts and kind of made me, I think, hang on and go back to the zoo world. As I missed working with owls and monkeys and porcupines. Like, they've got some fun personalities. I prefer them over human coworkers.
Yeah, I remember when you left, and even, for a few months before you left, that you were always concerned about leaving the animals and not having the opportunity to interact with them on a daily basis.
Yeah. So I think, that was definitely a hard one. Zookeepers do their job and animal trainers because of those animals, and that's kind of the main reason we're there. So that was definitely hard. And then, of course, like I said, that just show up to work and you're going to get a paycheck versus making your own paycheck. So those were some of those like thought process when I was figuring out, hey, should I leave? Do I need to leave? Where are my goals? But back in my brain, I knew I still wanted to complete those goals from 2009. Like, I still wanted to be a full-time business owner and launch and do it right,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So then when you finally did make the transition, leave the zoo and pursue your own stuff full time, what were those first few days or weeks like?
It was good. It was amazing, actually. It was crazy. I have had my business for part-time for many, many years, right? So I'm not new to running a business. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So my clients wanted more and I couldn't give them more because I didn't have the time. I've worked 2 jobs my entire life. And I only have so many hours of the day. So I left, and my clients are just amazing. And they're just like, all right, cool. We want you 4 times a week, and we have all these dogs for you, and here's some rescues that also need help. So it's just like an outpour of the community of my clients, and they filled my schedule up, and I set goals and I hit them right away. So it felt so good, so amazing. And to be honest, like, I've never looked back. It's been a year and a month-ish, 13 months-ish, and I don't look back. And I also, looking at that, realized how I wasn't happy, and I was really only there for one reason, which was the animals. And after, coming to Denver, I was like, I need to change. I'm going to change things up. And it wasn't the change of the location. I love Denver. It was the change of the career that I really needed. So, I spent 4.5 years here at the zoo, and it just wasn't making me happy. And so, dog training is where I need to be.
I agree. I remember there was a lot of nervousness and fear about hitting those goals, but I also remember that very first month you did hit your goals, and you were so surprised, and I was like, well, done. So that's awesome. I'm really glad that you have such amazing and supportive clients. Every time I talk to you, it's always, something nice. Like, guess what my clients did? They are letting me use their vacation rental, or they bought me this cute sweater, or your clients just seem like the most amazing. And I'm really grateful that you were able to make that transition, not only for them, but for yourself, and to realize that, you weren't happy doing what you were doing. Now that it's been about 13 months, what is that experience like? Do you still have nerves, or, do you ever second guess yourself? Do you go through periods of self-doubt, or are you just like, nah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, so I'm just going to make it work?
It's a good question. I think every business owner has self-doubts, and I think that's what makes you a good business owner, right? Like, I'm confident and I know I'll be fine and I'll do well, but I'm going to doubt myself because that's just what we do. But that also makes sure helps me push myself, right? And that I'm going to continue to meet those goals. So it's been 13 months, and I joke, like, maybe I should have set my goals higher that first month, but they were pretty high. So I think, I doubt
replace the income. I think that first month you just wanted to replace your zoo income.
Yeah. So that's
no problem.
Yeah, basically where I started was like breaking it down of like, all right, how much do I make at the zoo? And then we can talk the money talk of like, zookeepers don't make any money. Yeah. We do it because of the animals. And I always compare it. I don't throw out the number, but I say we make less than teachers do, like quite a bit less. Yeah. So my goals, were to meet what I made at the zoo and then grow from there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, every month I'm always worried, but I have learned to let that worry go and trust myself because I haven't seen a big decline. Like usually my slower months are kind of around the holidays, and that was my busiest month last year. So, it's a new roller coaster from full-time to part-time, but those numbers have been giving me confidence to keep going and that I'm fine and you've got this. And right now we're in the middle of the coronavirus, and things are a little bit different. And because I've built such good relationships with my clients, like they've got me, they're helping me through this, and we're making things work and we're changing things up. And, they're still paying for sessions, even though we might not be meeting. So I have to, like I said, trust myself and know that I built my business in the right way and a strong way, that I don't need to worry, more or less.
Yeah. I mean, I think a huge part of any kind of alternative lifestyle and business ownership is being adaptable and having the ability to pivot when things change. So, you usually work with your clients in very close proximity, humans and dogs, and now you're having to spread out a little bit or do virtual training or whatever. And I think that is incredible that you have that stamina and that flexibility to do that.
Yeah. And I think that scares a lot of people. People that are thinking about they want to do their own business or branch out is they get scared because you have to be flexible. You have to be motivated. You have to think outside the box. And that scares a lot of people. I have some really good friends who are forever zoo peeps, even though, they would like to make more money or do this, but they're like, they're that cookie cutter person where they just want to follow that pattern because it's easy. And doing these, I've had to launch virtual training in the past few weeks. It's been hard and different and unique, but you've got to do what you got to do. And that's hard. But I think people that are up for the challenge, it's worth it. I've never been that cookie cutter person. Like I could never sit at a desk for 8 hours a day and just do a job to get a paycheck. Like that's never been the way I've thought, or I've always had jobs outside. I need to be moving. I need to be in sunshine. So I don't know. It kind of is heartbreaking where I hear people miserable at their jobs and they just keep going because that's just what you do and it provides a paycheck. And I'm like, what are your goals? What are your dreams? Let's look at that. Let's figure that out. Mm-hmm. So people, like you do you've done some motivation coaching. I love that because let's break people out of those boxes.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I think this whole notion that going to work to sit at a desk for a paycheck, or whatever, working for somebody else for that paycheck is easy is also fairly inaccurate, because if you're going to work every day and you're miserable, how easy is that? Like, no, that's not easy. You're going to find unhealthy coping mechanisms somewhere. So yeah. I don't know why people put themselves through that, but different strokes for different folks, and those aren't my strokes.
I was having some health issues before I left the zoo, and I, was trying to figure it all out. And after I left, it was all stress. It was crazy. I didn't realize how unhappy I guess I was, and like how much I needed that change. So I'm so much healthier now and happy. And I have to joke because we talk all the time, and you're always just like, "Whoa, girl, you're killing it." Uh-huh. I talked to some of my friends, and one of them was like, I love you so much, but I also get frustrated because you're always so happy all the time now.
That's not a bad thing. They're just
being my own boss is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, so we've touched on it a little bit, but what do you think are some of the biggest pros and the biggest cons to leaving your career, working for somebody else and having that regular paycheck and health insurance and all of the other things, to, starting your own business? What do you think are the top pros for you and the top cons for you?
The pros, I would say that I think the way I did it was smart in the sense that I've had my business. Well, I started out full-time for 2 years, and then I've been part-time for like 8, right? So I think having part-time and then launching it full-time was definitely a pro. And that's something I recommend if somebody's interested in maybe a side business or something, is like dabble in it, get your feet wet in it, learn the ins and the outs, learn how to do your taxes, learn how to do that, all that gross stuff, right? Because you have to do everything. You do everything. You're everything. Mm-hmm. So learn kind of that before you launch it part-time. So I think that was a pro to make my business so successful, as I kind of weeded out all those little skills. Granted, I'm still learning, and there's a whole lot more now that I am full-time. So that's a pro. Another pro is no politics. I do not do workplace politics, right? They're everywhere, no matter what job you're working. So that's lovely. No politics. And I get to make my own schedule. And that's something that was very attractive to me as well. Like, I traveled a lot in my 20s, and I wanted to get back into that. And so now I book out a weekend every month, or however many days, anywhere from 2 to 4 days of like, all right, I'm not working these days, and I'm going to go do something fun. And whether it be go to the mountains, or go hiking, or hop on a plane and go to San Francisco. And I don't feel bad about it. Like, I don't have to request time off, and some amazing opportunities have fallen in my lap with that, where, my client was like, hey, my place happens to be open this weekend. I know you like to snowboard in the mountains. Do you want it? And I was like, yeah.
And this is pre-COVID, just for all of the listeners who are concerned that she's traveling during this challenging time. She's not traveling right now. She is very home-based. Before all of this nonsense happened, she was doing the traveling.
I was supposed to go to Mammoth, where I lived for like a couple years, and where my dog came from last week, and I about cried all week long because it was dumping snow and I was stuck here and couldn't travel. So that definitely is a pro, making my own schedule and being able to have that like flexibility. Mm-hmm. The con side of that is I don't have paid vacations, so you have to plan a little bit more, right? So that's a con. I would say the other con, which I'm learning, and Holly and I have talked about this, I have a really hard time saying no and setting those boundaries. So it's really easy. I work less, right? I don't work 40 hours a week anymore, which is amazing, and I make more money. But my phone is always on, or my emails are always going, and I'm always looking at those. Clients can basically get a hold of me any hour of the day, and I haven't been too strict with been like, okay, it's 9:00 at night. I don't need to respond to you, because I'm like, I'm up. I'll respond.
No. Oh.
So I would say that's a con that I'm still working out and setting those boundaries. It's really hard to do. Part of my business I pride myself on is my relationship with my clients. And that's, they're my support system and everything. But again, I have to set those boundaries of like, yes, we have a great relationship, but I'm also like, you hire me, I'm not, your best friend. Mm-hmm. And you can't text me at 10:00 at night and things like that.
No. At 10 p.m. I'm answering you the next morning. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, but you know me, I'm like working till like midnight. I'm on my computer doing stuff till like midnight.
That's true. That's that freedom of time there. I'm a morning person. I get up at like 5 or 6 in the morning and get all my work done by like 10 a.m.
I will say another pro off that is kind of cracks me up is I'm not a morning person. Mm-hmm. So mornings have been always hard. The zookeeper field, like there's many times in my career where 6 a.m. was the start time. I've had 4 a.m. as the start time. Like, yeah, that's like hell to me, right? So now no clients before like 9:30. It's glorious. So being able to set my own schedule and sleep in, and I'm back to like being able to get more sleep than I ever have in my life, and it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So were there additional cons other than the boundaries and the lack of paid time off?
I would say the other thing, which I don't know, maybe this is a pro for some people, is a con is like you are everything. You're your marketing manager. You're your CPA. You're your time management. You're the front desk person. You're everything. Yeah.
Especially while you're small and just starting. Eventually, you can start outsourcing those things, but at the beginning you kind of need to wear all the hats.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a huge learning curve for me. Social media during this time where we're on lockdown, actually I've been putting a lot of time in like trying to learn how to use social media better and doing some graphics graphics work and things like that, where that's not my specialty. Like I've never been savvy on the computer and that kind of stuff. So that's definitely a con, and it's really hard, but it's also really rewarding once you like get better at it and learn those skills. It's like, oh, look what I did. But again, it's not for everybody. Yeah. You have to be a self-motivated person in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that would be a majority of my cons. There's not too many. I mean, I always joke that I'm like living the American dream now of working less and making more, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and speaking on the finances, would you mind going into a little bit of how you're sustaining yourself? I mean, you're working fewer hours, you're making more money. What does that translate into for you? And, you know, as a self-employed person, you have more expenses than you had before. I mean, you're paying for your own health insurance and, you know, your own retirement and, you know, whatever else your company was paying for before. Now you're having to shoulder all of that. How are you making it work financially?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think a lot of people, I come from a different background where like I've never made a lot of money in my life. Like that's just been my career. Like I can live off of like 25 to 30 grand, no problem. And people are like, how the heck? Like, how do you pay rent? How do you eat? And I've never lived
especially in an expensive city like Denver.
Yeah, it's definitely an expensive city. And I don't know, I guess I was raised understanding money, and I think that's important. Like I understand how money works and budgeting and saving money and how that's important. So I came with a good value system on that part. My dad's actually an accountant and a financial planner, so that's been helpful. So I've always lived on a low income. So I would say it wasn't like I left, you know, a $70,000 job and then went to like 30 or whatever. I didn't backtrack. Now I'm in the opposite boat, which is like, but I have to be careful with that, right? I'm making a little bit more money now. I can't just go blow it away. Right. And so this month has been great because I finally got my taxes and kind of learned what first year taxes look like and all that. And I budget smart. I know every month, like I have to put away $500 to $700 in that savings account to pay taxes later. Mm-hmm. And I try to pay my quarterly taxes so I don't know, you know, 20 grand at the end of the year and things like that. Yeah. So it's just being smart with it. And really, I also know my minimum numbers. So like if I do want to take a vacation, I usually work really, really, really hard. If I'm going to take 7 to 10 days off, those weeks before and after, I'm booking really long days, which I don't love, but I've got to meet those minimum numbers. And I know what my minimum numbers of hours or my minimum hours I need to work to pay my bills.
Yeah.
So and kind of being
include like owning your own home.
Yeah.
And having a car payment. And what else is included in your regular operating expenses for your business and your life?
I guess one thing I am fortunate about, I don't have a facility location, so I don't have like rent on for facilities rent. I do teach classes and train dogs at a space where I do pay them a little bit out of each session, but it's not anywhere what rent would be. So I've got that. So they take a cut of all my pay. And then, I have my mortgage, I have my health insurance. Taxes are a big one, and I think a lot of business owners forget about that. And they're like, I'll just pay them at the end of the year, and then you get a really gross bill, and you're like, oh.
I always put away like 30% of my income, every piece of income I get, and my income varies widely. So I just do it by percentage. I take 30%, I put it in taxes. If I don't have to spend it all, great, that's my return.
Yep.
But yeah, taxes, you have to plan for them.
So I think that's smart. And then, I like right now, my retirement's not where I want it to be, but I'm still throwing something at it every month. And that's one of my goals this year is to be able to up that. And I was ready for it. And then this pandemic happened. I was like, okay, let's just hold back for a few months to see what happens. And then I'll figure out that amount that I want to go back to. So that one's hard because it's like, it's money I could use, but I know it's money I need later. So it's just as important to like add to that retirement fund. What else? I don't have a lot of costs. I joke that like a bulk of my cost to run my business is dog treats.
You do hand out dog treats like they're candy.
Oh my gosh. So I do positive reinforcement training. So a lot of treats are involved. So yeah, and everybody thinks I have the best treats. And I always joke that I don't have the best treats. They're just not what you're feeding your dog. So they're novel. So I do have the best treats.
I mean, you could probably just carry around a bag of like Miara's kibble and not have like a specific treat, and the dogs would be like, oh my God, this is new and unique and I love it.
Depending on the behavior, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot on dog treats. I do spend some money on marketing. I also spend time on marketing. So getting FaceTime in with vet clinics and pet stores and like that's really important. Gas, I would say last year I actually got a new car and I put like 12,000 miles on it, which is more than I've ever driven in a year. So that's definitely maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, I put a ton of miles on my car, but I live in my van. So you basically live in your car traveling all over Denver.
Yeah. And so that's something like for future goals, like I'm trying to figure that out on how do I do more training at the daycare location that I have access to, and finding that balance of making the same amount of money, but making it affordable for people. There's a lot of little hiccups in trying to figure that out. And I think a lot of people enjoy my services because I do come to them and they don't have to travel. So that's also a perk too. So I would say back to like the con is like raising my prices. It's a hard thing to do. And every business owner knows that, but raising your prices is really important and finding that value that you're worth. And so working out that too, as a new business, like how often do I raise my prices? Where's that price point? And finding that clientele niche as well, because I know if I raise them, I'm going to price out certain people, and am I okay with that and whatnot?
Yeah, that's super challenging. And the finances for any business are unique and different. You know, another dog trainer is going to go about, you know, their pricing model in a totally different way.
Yeah. And I will have to say, like, I don't have, like I said, I don't have a lot of overhead, which is great. So my expenses are low. A lot of dog trainers you talk to and they're like, oh, we don't make any money. Again, I came from a different background. So maybe they came from the corporate world. So now they're not making any money. I see the opposite side. And I'm also a positive person where I'm like, awesome, I am making money. I'm able to pay my bills. I'm able to do all that and still have extra. That's a win in my book. I don't need to be making, like I said, 70 grand a year. Eventually I will. And it'll be amazing. And I'll be able to travel more and have more, you know, like kayaks and paddle boards and all those fun things. But right now I love my life and I'm happy with the way things are going. And I feel like I've been smart with managing my business and the money side, but it definitely takes self-discipline in that part too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think figuring out your unique level of comfort or your unique like risk tolerance as far as having a sizable savings account or, you know, savings for retirement or what kind of health insurance you need. Like that's something that, you know, I have my methods and you have your methods, and any listener who runs their own business is going to have their own methods. So I think it's really interesting to talk about those and give people different ideas. But at the end of the day, that's your decision and you're the only one who knows the right answer for all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know people that are happy with like a $200 safety net in their bank account. That's not me personally, but
oh my God, please have more than $200 in your savings account.
Wait, if you have a lot of zookeeper friends, it's pretty normal.
Fair. I only have a few.
So yeah, like I know people that's their comfort level, and that's never been my comfort level, but that's probably also why, like I said, I worked 2 jobs until last year, my entire life, because I've always wanted to have that safety net and that bank account and savings account and kind of stuff. So I've always had 2 jobs. I've always worked really hard. So it does feel really, really good now to work one job and be able to accomplish all that. Like I'm in my late 30s. It was time to only have to work one job and be able to be a homeowner and have those things. And I think that's like the biggest outcome of this is my financial freedom, and just to be able to live my life to the best I can and want to, and like not be tied down by people or be limited by my bosses or limited by the society that I was working for and things like that. Like my future's my own now, and I get to make it what I want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of your future, what do you think you might want it to be? Like,
Yeah.
short-term future, long-term future, whatever you have plans for, what does that look like for you?
I think I'm still figuring some of that out. Like I'm definitely a goal setter. I set goals and I have all these lists, right?
Yeah. And she beats all of her goals.
Oh, it takes work, but I get there. This first year was definitely like, let's see what the year has for me and then kind of reevaluate. And so now that I've got the first year under the belt, like I know what to look forward to, I know what to expect, and setting goals for this next year. Definitely would like to up my income a little bit more, keep that growing so I can keep meeting some other goals that I have. I do want to, now that I've got more of my business established, I'm working on finding a little bit more of a niche. As far as like dog training going, I have been taking more or less whatever cases, and I've got experience in a little bit of everything from like dog on dog aggression, dog on human aggression, resource guarding, basic manners, puppy training. But I'm learning, like, again, the power to say no. Like, I don't enjoy separation anxiety cases. So finding that niche and being like, okay, cool. I can say no to this client. I don't really want to work this case. Let me refer you to somebody else. Yeah. So that's a big goal of mine, is finding more of that niche of which route I want to go. Do I want to focus more on just puppies or more on aggression, things like that? So that's a goal. Not for sure what that looks like yet. What else? Another goal. Huh?
It's a good thing to be thinking about, even if you don't have the answers yet.
Yeah, because if you look at a lot of traders, some of the really, really successful traders do have that niche. And I think it's scary because if you say, okay, I'm only going to work aggression cases and say no to like 80% of my other clients right now, like it's going to have some growing pains, right? To build that like I'm the aggression dog trainer of Denver. So I don't know where that sits yet. So that's one goal. Another goal is I want to get back to my roots a little bit. You're going to laugh at this. And I want to get some exotics back on board.
Yes. I love it.
Right? It doesn't mean I'm going to go work at the zoo again. But I want to do some volunteer work either at one of the local raptor centers or one of the outreach places, and just be able to have that back in my life, because I really miss it. I really became a big bird nerd over the last couple of years. And so I think that's kind of, I want to talk to the raptor centers and see if I can do some work with them and maybe do some outreach with their birds and whatnot. So that's a goal. Those are short-term goals this year. I also am getting a second dog, hopefully this year. So that'll be another, it's been a big decision. So my girl's 11 and I've pondered this decision for probably 3 years, and it's time. Mm-hmm. So I'll be adding to my family in that way, which is pretty exciting. What else? Other long-term goals. I float the idea back and forth about making Positively Wild happen again. I don't really know.
Yeah.
That's something, I don't know. I don't know where I sit with that one, but I always keep that like tucked way back in the back of my head. Mm-hmm. It would be a really big job and a big change. And I have to look at, like, I'm still young, but like jumping into that at my age and things like that. And then another long-term goal is to move to Costa Rica for a few years and go work with like spider monkeys and capuchins in their natural habitat.
I think all of those goals sound great.
I'm really excited with Costa Rica. It's something I've always had, wanted to do. And I've come to terms this past year of like, why not? Why don't I make that happen? Like, why don't I make that a reality? So again, it's just growing my business well enough that I can take that time off or have somebody run my business while I'm gone. So that's, again, a long-term goal too. But I definitely am excited about that one because it's been a dream for a long time.
I love it. I think that's amazing, and you should definitely do it. And I love that line of questioning of why not? Right. I think it's such a simple question. Like, why not just do the thing you want to do?
And I always got that a lot in my 20s. I would work my butt off. Again, I would work 60-hour work weeks with the animals all the time. And then I would work. My lease would be up and I'd be like, see ya guys, I'm out. And I would head to like Ecuador for a couple weeks or Costa Rica or Australia for a few months. And people were always like, how do you do that? Like a lot of people didn't understand. And I was like, I work hard, I save, and then I go. Like, you can make it happen too. You just have to be smart with your finances. And like, I didn't go over there and live in like luxury, you know, I was living in not great places, but I was still experiencing the culture and the place and whatnot as well.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great piece of advice for anybody who wants to do anything that they are not currently doing, is to wonder why not. Like, even if it's something as simple as, you know, trying out not drinking for a month or something, you know, like it doesn't have to be a massive trip, which no one can take right now anyway because COVID. But like, why not just try the thing you want to do? And as you said earlier, you know, maybe try it part-time, like just dip your feet in and like see what that feels like. It doesn't have to be a full-on commitment.
Yeah, I think dipping your feet in is a good way to go, and trying it out part-time or looking. There's so many amazing like Facebook groups and things right now, finding people that have the similar interests and start networking. Networking is really, really important, has really helped my business, and it builds a sense of community as well. And so, you know, you're not alone. Like, we have a group of, there's like 98 of us that are all positive reinforcement dog trainers in Denver. And it's so cool to be with a group that supports each other. Like, we're not competing for business. We're supporting each other and we're helping each other out and we're referring each other. And it's, so again, there's plenty of resources out there for people to learn and grow or go volunteer. I'm a mentor for animal behavior students that are learning how to be a dog trainer. And they only have to do 15 hours with me, which you can't learn how to be a dog trainer in 15 hours. Just sharing that. So I always have them stay on with me if they're, you know, down for it, and mentor and grow them and be like, is this really what you want to do? And, you know, there's a lot of, every job you go, there's going to be things you don't like and do like. And a lot of the dog stuff is like, I don't want to work with people. I'm like, well, if you're a dog trainer, you also have to work with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, so much of dog training is people training.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say it's a 60-40 split. You decide who's getting trained more.
I love it.
Bouncing back on that too, one of my other goals, which I totally forgot, and this podcast hopefully will reach more people all about, but with the virtual training now happening and being offered, that was something that was kind of sitting on my to-do list for a long time. And then now with COVID-19 out, I was like, all right, now or never, lady, launch it.
Why
so
not?
Virtual training, but something I'm really excited this year is I want to launch that virtual training, not just for dogs, but I want to push more of my exotic background. So I always say I'm a professional animal trainer.
Yes.
Dog training, yes, is 90% of my business, but I also offer training for parrots and reptile owners and hoofstock owners. And, you know, there's a lot of pet pigs out there. So that's something this year I'm really excited to see if I can, you know, grow my marketing skills, right? And pick up some more virtual clients for all those people that own a macaw or a goat or a pig and that are struggling with training. And they don't have to be in Denver. They could be all over the world.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Do you have any last pieces of advice for people who are considering leaving a, you know, more career type Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or, you know, whatever, to follow their own business dreams?
Yeah, I would definitely say map out a plan, but be flexible to that plan. You know, you can't just, right? You can't just leave it and be like, I'm going to go make this happen. Like, it takes a lot of planning and a lot of envisioning and understanding and learning. Definitely taking a business course or something of that would be beneficial as well. When I was looking at Positively Wild, I took a big business course, wrote out a whole business plan, learned about how to get grants and marketing and all that. So having that, doing that back work is important. But I also say go for it, because you go for it, give it some time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not magic. I wish it would be, you know, and give it your best go, and remember that if it doesn't work, you can always go back to other jobs. Like, I think a lot of people are scared to try, because what if they fail? Failure's okay. That's how we learn.
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
That can happen. If you fail, then you just go get another job, which you've already demonstrated you can do. So
yeah. And like with all this going on, like I definitely have been nervous, and I don't know what my business looks like, and I don't know what the economy is going to look like in 6 months. But I know if I really needed to, I could go tomorrow and get a job at Starbucks, and they pay benefits for part-time. Mm-hmm. So that's also something that helped me get through when I started my business. I was also working part-time at either Starbucks or Trader Joe's, which are great companies and would pay benefits for part-time. So again, you might have to do some things you don't want to do to get to where you are and doing what you want. And those sacrifices are well worth it, and they pay out in the long run.
Gold. I think that is gold. So Emily, if people wanted to come find you on the interwebs, how would they do that?
Yeah, so my website is www.positivelypets.org, and Positively is PAWS, like pause, Positively Pets. Yep. And on social media, Facebook and Instagram, it's Positively Pets Training. Please come find me on there and send me pictures of your dogs, cats, reptiles, whatever you got, snakes, birds. Would love to share those on my social media and help you guys out if you have any other questions on the training realm. And I'm also always posting fun pictures of like Throwback Thursday of, me hanging out with monkeys and weird things like that I've done.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I will link to all of that in the show notes as well. Thank you very much, Emily, for being a part of Deliberate Living. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time. We've reached the end of this episode of Deliberate Living. You can find the show notes and everything we referenced over on my website, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts on YouTube, or sign up for email updates every time something new is published. I'll see you next time on Deliberate Living, and until then, keep your life on the DL too.